I apologize. I was having some network issues. The reason why it just cut off abruptly like that. But if you just checking out the video, I was in our what we call at the station production room, and I guess like the connection is really bad there. So I decided to come into my office so I can talk a little bit of Saints news with you all. I talked a little bit about Kiko Alonso. People have been asking me why hasn't Kiko Alonso been playing. I said the reason why is because he got to the team a week ago, and he still has to get acclimated to the defensive playbook. It takes a while, man. I mean, you got to think about all of the different defensive plays that these guys run and you know, assignments that these guys have. It takes a while for these guys to develop the type of chemistry and also to know exactly what they're doing. And I like what the Saints are doing because we all know, man, you put a guy like that on the field, you're only going to be messing with his confidence, you know, especially if he goes out there and he is not where he needs to be. And sometimes fans don't really understand. The only thing that they see is this guy's supposed to be as good as advertised. And if he's not out there and he's blowing assignments, people are going to be like, man, this guy sucks. Man, this guy's not that good. Why did the Saints, trade for this guy? So I like the fact that he was on the sidelines. He's going to get on the field. You're probably going to see him for the first time against the Rams because now he has 2 weeks under his belt to actually learn and develop the defensive playbook. So I think that you're actually going to see a Kiko Alonso sighting in the game against the Rams. Another player that played with Kiko Alonso, people have been asking me about, has been Minkah Fitzpatrick. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, we all know, especially if you follow LSU football, man, you know LSU play Alabama every single year. Minkah Fitzpatrick was a standout cornerback at the University of Alabama. He was drafted in the first round by the Miami Dolphins a couple years ago, and he's been a player that's been on the rise. He had a couple good seasons with the Miami Dolphins, and last week the Miami Dolphins got blew out by the Baltimore Ravens. I think you all seen some of the media coverage surrounding the Dolphins where players after that game, they realized that the Miami Dolphins were tanking, and they called their agents and they said they wanted to look elsewhere and try to find greener pastures and go to teams that actually want to win and not teams that are just putting them out there just to set them up for failure. So you had a couple players, and Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of those guys. So the Miami Dolphins gave him the okay to go out there and try to seek a trade. But to get a Minkah Fitzpatrick, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot to get Minkah. Minkah is a great young cornerback, okay? He has a tendency of being an all-time great. He has all those skills. But the problem is a lot of people don't realize it because he plays in Miami, and we all know that Miami plays in a division that is run by Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. So you probably don't really hear that much about Minkah Fitzpatrick, but he is really good. In order for the Saints to get him, they're going to have to give up a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. They're going to have to give up a lot for Minkah. I'm talking about a first-round pick. Probably going to have to give up some money. And, you know, and I'm talking about not just for this year coming, but the year after that. It's going to be a while, man. They're going to have to give up some things. Now, if you're willing to do that, and we all know that the Saints are like in win-now mode right now because they want to go for it all. I mean, they don't know how many years Drew Brees still has. I mean, if you look at the team, a lot of young players that are going to need to get paid. We know Michael Thomas just got paid, became the highest paid wide receiver before Julio Jones took his place last week. We know that Marshawn Lattimore is looking for a big contract. You see the way that Alvin Kamara is running. You see the way Ryan Ramczyk shut down J.J. Watt. Man, these are good young players that are going to need to get paid. And the Saints are going to have to strike while the iron is hot. It's going to be very sad to see if, you know, the Saints play all these years with a good football team, good playoff team, and the next thing you know, there's nothing to really show for except for a couple playoff wins and some heartbreak from fans. But if you get a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick, it would not surprise me because the Saints are in win-now mode. So you want to go out here, you want to put the best product on the field. I think we all can agree the Saints secondary is the biggest liability on their team. Guys getting beat every single play, burnt like a biscuit, smoked like brisket. Y'all know how it is, man. You look at usual suspects like Eli Apple and P.J. Williams and sometimes Patrick Robinson, guys getting beat deep, no recovery speed, guys getting beat on double moves. You get tired of that stuff, man. And I think Marshawn Lattimore hit the nail on the head in his press conference after the game. He talked about, man, we had the game. It shouldn't even came down to a Will Lutz 58-yard field goal, even though that was something spectacular. But for them to just go down the field in the fourth quarter, the last few minutes, and just 2 plays, boom, boom, that is totally unacceptable. You would think that you'll see that from guys that are in their first year together, a couple guys that you got off the street. But for the most part, these guys have been in the secondary together for the past 3 years. These guys should know what each other is thinking. It shouldn't be like, oh, I thought you had it. Oh, I thought you had it. No, you want these guys to be clicking and meshing and be on the same page. And not to mention, you have the same defensive coordinator and secondary coach as long as you've been with the team. So I can't accept that anymore, man. I wrote, it's just amazing to me how this defense just can't close games. It's amazing to me how these guys just can't close games. As much ability as these guys have, as much of a shutdown corner that Marshawn Lattimore is, as much as a ball hawk as Marcus Williams is, as much as a short tackler as Von Bell is, you would think that these guys can actually get the job done. Eli Apple, questionable. But after he gave up that play to Fuller, you didn't really see him anymore. You ain't hear really nothing else about him. But P.J. Williams, man, it just seems like to me, when teams realize that they're down and they need a play, they're looking for number 26 on the field, and they're probably going to put their best receiver in a slot to misuse and abuse him. So I think the Saints need to do something with him. It's rather they're going to have to sit him down or they're going to have to get somebody else. Because, man, you got to learn how to, be able to cover. You can't just, bully guys, because maybe every now and then guys going to maybe get off your jam. And once they get off your jam, you don't have the speed to catch up with them. They're going to posterize you. And that's facts. So I think the Saints need to maybe look into possibly getting another guy in the slot corner. And, I don't know if they got to get a Minkah Fitzpatrick or anything like that. But if they were to get Minkah Fitzpatrick, I would not be surprised, because the New Orleans Saints really want to do everything they possibly can to win a Super Bowl, man. For the last couple of years as Saints fans, I think we all can agree, this has been some of the toughest times. I mean, if you're a Saints fan probably in the early 90s, you were just happy to see the team win. But now that you've seen this team actually obtain success and you know that they have the capability of going to the Super Bowl, it really hurts you when you know that they have the skills. It hurts you when you know they had the better team and they don't win. It hurts even more than you actually seeing them lose week after week and you know that they ain't going to make the playoffs. Now it's like they're a really good team. They're one of the top 3 teams in the National Football League, and excellence is the only thing that you expect. And when you don't get it, I mean, it really just hurts you even more. So I think they need to clean up whatever going on in that secondary. As far as the front line, I mean, we all can agree. Since Sheldon Rankins isn't there, David Onyemata, he was serving a 1-game suspension. That wasn't a surprise to me. That wasn't a surprise to see that those guys were getting beat. Running backs was running up the middle. That didn't surprise me at all, because Sheldon Rankins is a good defensive tackle. David Onyemata came on. He had his best season in the Saints uniform last season, and he wasn't out there. So you had people like Malcolm Brown, who ended up getting hurt in the game. He was dealing with a hamstring injury. You have Mario Edwards, a guy that they got from the Giants. He was out of the game. And you had Lewin, the guy that they brought out the practice squad. And you had like just a couple guys, that you put into there with spit and glue. I didn't expect anything from the defensive tackle position. So it wasn't a surprise that teams were able to run on the Saints. But I will say this, on some of those halfback toss, where I'm looking at guys like Marcus Davenport, a guy who should be able to hold his ground, be able to, get containment in order for him to, get tackles. Guys were running to his side. They were not running to Cameron Jordan's side. They gotta clean that up, man. They definitely got to clean that up. I mean, you had the second best run defense in the National Football League last season, and now you have guys that's supposed to come in and make that run defense much better. I need to see it. And the secondary has to play much better, man, because none of those guys are rookies anymore. For the exception of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Saquon Hampton, who didn't even play, those are the guys that are young guys. Those are the guys that you be like, okay, man, he's a rookie. Okay, you know what I'm saying? That comes with the territory. But at the end of the day, when you got guys on this team that got drafted at the same time, when you seen these guys grow together, when you seen these guys fight together and all these little special cool-looking handshakes, you want these guys to go out there and perform because they are supposed to be on the same page. They're supposed to know what each other is thinking. You know, it's kind of similar to being in a relationship. You know, you're in a relationship for a certain amount of time. There's certain things about your significant other you're going to know. You're going to know how they feel just by looking at them. That's the way that the chemistry on a football team is. You know, you're supposed to know what this guy is thinking, especially you guys in the same classrooms during the week, learning and developing and watching film together. You should know these things. I can't accept that anymore. I cannot accept anything except excellence from the New Orleans Saints secondary. If guys are not generating turnovers and guys getting beat, there's absolutely no explanation for that. The only suggestion I would have is some guys need to get cut because they just will never get it. That's just facts. If anybody got any questions about the team, feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you all think. I try to answer to the best of my ability. I'm not saying I'm the Saints guru or nothing like that, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, please. What's up? I'm with you, bro. Our secondary should be lights out. I think the system is part of the problem. I don't think that the system is part of the problem because if you look at the defense, buddy, you will see, man, they play probably one of the most simple defenses you ever going to see, man. They play a lot of man coverage. They play mostly zone. It's not too sophisticated. It's not like you're dealing with a Rob Ryan or a Rex Ryan type defense. You know, it's not like you're dealing with the late great Jim Johnson Philadelphia Eagles type defense or Dick LeBeau. I mean, those were complicated defenses. These guys' defenses are completely simplified. They are playing to the strengths of these individuals, and yet they're still not doing what they're supposed to do. And honestly, you know, I just think that these guys are not playing loose. I think because a lot of them, you know, they probably reading the press clippings. They're saying that, you know, they always getting smoked. You know what I'm saying? They always getting toast. Maybe they paying attention to that stuff and they're afraid to make plays. Man, you can't play like that, man. You gotta completely eliminate the white noise when you're going out there to play. I say this all the time, and I respect the heck out of Deion Sanders, the greatest cornerback that ever lived, in my opinion. He said 5% of people in the secondary, they go out there, they try to make a play. He said the other 95% just focus on not getting beat. If you want to be a playmaker, if you want to be a ball hawk, if you want to be one of those guys that stand the test of time as being one of the all-time greats, you got to play loose and you got to play fearless. There's a lot of scared guys in that secondary for the Saints. There's a lot of guys that are afraid about getting smoked. There's a lot of guys that are afraid of trying to make a play. There's a lot of guys that are afraid that they're going to woof on a tackle. There's a lot of unassurance out there. You cannot play like that. When I seen out of Marcus Williams, when he caught that interception, I don't know if y'all paid attention, but please go back and check it out. And as a matter of fact, I posted the video on the State of the Saints podcast Facebook page, so y'all check out that video. Marcus Williams did something I didn't see him do since his rookie year. He covered like 20 yards of field to go clean across the field to jump in front of that interception. Last season, I don't think you would have saw that from Marcus Williams. I don't know if the Minnesota Miracle was still in his mind. I don't know if he was just, you know, still seeing Stephon Diggs in his dreams. I don't know what was going on. But you cannot play like that, man. That's what separated the Ed Reeds. And I know he's a person that's not really popular these days, but Darren Sharper, those are the guys that stood out. The Bob Sanders, the Troy Polamalu's. Those are the guys that stand out because they were not afraid. And now we're seeing it like in Baltimore with Earl Thomas. those guys aren't afraid to mess up. Those guys aren't afraid to give up on a play. And if they do give up on a play, they have amnesia. So that's what separates the good from the great. And I have to ask the question from the Saints secondary. I would ask them today, do any of you want to be great? Or do y'all just want to be good and just collect these paychecks and do cool handshakes and stuff like that? But like I said, the handshakes, they cool and all that. You know, I like the handshake. I like the swag and all that. But, man, you got to make some plays, man, for real. You definitely got to make some plays. Let's see. Trade PJ, Apple, and Crawley or a draft pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Gaines. Look, I like the enthusiasm. I like the front office type of mind frame that you got there. But there's no way in the world that nobody is trading no Minkah Fitzpatrick for no PJ, no Eli, and no Crawley, okay? You're lucky if you can get a pack of 9-laters for them cats. For real. I'm just being honest with you. You lucky if you can get a stick of gum for a PJ Williams, Eli Apple, or Ken Crawley. All them guys are smoked, if you ask me. They all toast. And I think teams already know that. I mean, they understand that, man. It's not like it's something of a secret. The New Orleans Saints have been playing in prime time for the past couple seasons. So teams have had opportunity to see these guys play on prime time. So they seeing these guys getting smoked. They seeing these guys getting roasted like peanuts. You get what I'm saying? So I don't think you're going to get anything for that. You're going to have to probably give up a first-round draft pick. I agree with you on that one right there. But you're not going to get anything for no P.J. Williams, no Ken Crawley, and no Eli Apple. You're not going to get anything, man. If you call the Miami Dolphins talking about some P.J. Williams, them people go laugh in your face. That's what they going to do. They going to be like, hello? Yeah. Who? P.J.? That's what they gonna do, man. That for real. That's what they gonna do. I'm just being honest with you, gang. I like the mind frame, man. I like the draft pick that you're talking about. You know, giving up the draft pick. I agree with that one. But PJ and Eli Apple and Crawley, man, absolutely not, man. You can't get nothing for that. That ain't happening. That ain't happening, games. But I appreciate that question, man. What is Saquon Hampton's injury? And if healthy, why hasn't he played after being bragged about so much in camp? Look, man, Saquon Hampton made the team, but he made the team strictly not because of how he was playing like in the defense, but it was more like his special teams abilities that he had. He's a sure tackler. That's the reason why the Saints end up getting him from Rutgers. Yeah, he had a couple, interceptions and stuff like that in practice, but he is dealing with, I think, like a hamstring injury, if I'm not mistaken. But look honestly, who would you put him in there for? He's a safety. I would not put him in for a Von Bell. I wouldn't put him in for a Marcus Williams. You can probably put him in a slot, maybe replace a P.J. Williams. I'm all for that. But his position and being a safety, I don't think he can beat out Von Bell. I don't think he can beat out Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams, a lot of people got a chance to see Saquon Hampton because Marcus Williams was dealing with knee injuries throughout camp. And that was the reason why they were able to plug in Saquon Hampton. And that's why a lot of people were able to get eyes on him. And he was able to kind of plead his case to actually make the team. So the way that I look at it, I think that the team is a good fit for him, but at the end of the day, I don't see him being a safety. I don't think that he's going to be at the safety position as a starter. I think he's going to be one of the guys that's going to end up being on the special teams and probably just getting plugged in case somebody gets hurt. But he is a valuable asset to the team, but I think he's going to be a valuable asset playing special teams when he comes back from injury. Anthony Tillman says, good morning, bro. Man, I'm glad you're talking the truth to these non-football players. Look, man, I'm just a guy with an opinion, man. I don't think I'm the smartest person in the room. I appreciate y'all, for spending time with me and talking with me and asking me questions. I'm a fan at the end of the day, just like everybody else. I appreciate you all. Without you all, I probably wouldn't be, doing this right now, because honestly, who would care what I think? I think we're all passionate about our team. I think there's something special about the New Orleans Saints fan base. I think we got the best fan base in sports. I'm just being honest. I know a lot of teams, you'll probably see the New York Jets, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Giants, the Dallas Cowboys. But I think there's just this special connection that the New Orleans Saints have with their fan base. I just think that we just love our team a little bit more than others. And I think that when things are not going right, just like any situation in your life, whether you're dealing with family, it's something that tinkles at your heartstrings. And I think that when you see guys out there getting posterized, and when you see the running the running defense getting sliced through like Swiss cheese, when you see that kind of stuff, it affects you. And sometimes you may not be thinking as logically as you should. But I think we're all passionate at the end of the day. I respect everybody's opinion. Sometimes I don't agree and I wonder where it come from. But nevertheless, man, I respect everybody's right to say how they feel about it, man. And if we are not on the same page, we can always have conversations to get there, man. But I appreciate it, though, Anthony. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that question and that statement. It seems like the secondary plays better towards the end of the season for some reason. We looked weak at the beginning of the season last year. Look, man, the Saints, thank you, James. The Saints defense has always started off slow. For the last, 6 years, they have started the season not winning the game in week 1. So they always start off slow. The problem with the Saints is they don't have a good game plan at the beginning of the games, in my opinion. If you notice, man, like for the last couple of years, the Saints always seem to be down at halftime. But I have to say, I got to give them a lot of credit because they make some of the best halftime adjustments you ever going to see. They can come up in there in the first half. We like, man, what is going on, man? What is happening, man? Why is this happening? And then the second half, like, they play like a completely different team. Now, a lot of that has a lot to do with understanding teams. Like, you're probably going to play much better in week 10 than you did in week 2 because now you have film on teams. You understand team tendencies. You understand what the offense is going to do if you're the defensive player and vice versa. So you're able to understand what teams are actually going to do. So that's why it seems like the light come on just a little bit more because you're actually over the course of time developing tape and understanding what teams are going to do to you. So I think that has a lot to do with some of the improvements that you see during the season. But I definitely agree, James. They start off way too slow. The New Orleans Saints are just too good in order for them to be starting off as slow as they are. I don't know what it is. They just really, really stagnant at the beginning of the games, and they're really, really stagnant at the beginning of the season. And then, they start to catch on, and then they become one of the hottest teams in the league. I would like to see the Saints do something a little bit different. I would like to see them start in the first quarter of the season and start off and fire on all cylinders. In the next couple weeks, we're going to see what the Saints are all about. You got 2 West Coast road games against the Rams and the Seahawks, and then you go back home to take on the Dallas Cowboys. So even though we hate the Dallas Cowboys, man, they still have a good defense, and we just seen Dak Prescott throw 4 touchdowns and have a perfect passer rating. Now, you can call it what you want. You can say they played the Giants, but at the end of the day, that's still a good football team. The Seattle Seahawks, they always have a good defense, and Russell Wilson is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the National Football League. The Rams, they need to be ready for that game. I think emotions are going to be high. A lot of the New Orleans Saints players that were on that team last season, a lot of those players are back, and they understand, and they still have a bad taste in their mouth from what happened. So that's more like a revenge game. I think that they need to come out there being passionate, but I do not think that they need to go out there just overthinking things. So I think that will be a recipe for disaster. So we're really going to see what the New Orleans Saints are all about over the next couple weeks, man, because this schedule that the New Orleans Saints have is really tough. It is really tough. Tracy says they have stepped up on their game. That's for sure. Yeah, in the second half, they step up on their game, Tracy. They make great halftime adjustments. I would never take that away from the Saints. They're the best second half team I've seen in the National Football League in the past 3 years. They know how to adjust to what teams are actually doing to them in the first half. So if they continue to do that throughout the season, I think they should be okay. But just make sure that they actually start fast and make those adjustments. They'll be hard to stop. Yeah, I love the Saints too, Tracy. Thank you very much. Gaines said, hold up, fam. Marcus Williams had 4 interceptions in his rookie year, but second year it was because of the Vikings. His confidence went down year 2. Yeah, I agree, Gaines. I mean, I agree with you. He had 5 interceptions in his rookie year. He had 5 interceptions, and then of course, you know, the Minnesota Miracle happened his second season. Like, I feel like it was a shot to his confidence. He had 2 interceptions that year, and now he has 1 this year. It seems like he's playing with a little bit more confidence. I got a lot of respect for Marcus Williams, man. I do. I think, look, I respect the guy on and off the field. He was one of those guys who ended up leaving the University of Utah. He left college early. He ended up getting drafted by the Saints at the age of 20. He made a promise to his grandfather that he was going to graduate from college. He graduated with a 4.0 grade point average, man. And I think a lot of things that I think we forget sometimes that these guys are actually human. His grandfather was like really, really close to him, and his grandfather ended up passing away. Or he was sick throughout the season. His grandfather passed away in the middle of the season. That really affected him, So I think sometimes, like, we don't look at these guys and we don't think these guys are human because, man, they muscled up and they fast and they have athletic ability that we can only dream of. But between what he probably was going through personally and constantly seeing that Minnesota Miracle, seeing him dipping his head over and over and over again, I think it kind of got to him, man. But now I'm seeing a different side of Marcus Williams. I'm seeing more of a leadership role. I'm seeing him flying around the field. I'm seeing him going across the field to make plays. That's what you want to see, man, because he has too much talent. He has too much ability for him to just squander that and his career to be defined by one play. But I mean, that just comes with the territory, man. I think about back in the day. I mean, this was before I was born, but I'm a football historian a little bit. I remember the Minnesota Vikings, the Purple People Eaters. I mean, I don't know, a lot of people don't know this guy. His name is Jim Marshall. Jim Marshall was a great defensive player, man. He was one of the guys who was probably one of the top guys, a part of that Purple People Eater defense. And he is in the Hall of Fame right now. And he's not in the Hall of Fame when you think about Jim Marshall. You're not thinking about him being a great defensive player. He's known for the guy who picked the ball up, picked up a fumble and ran the wrong way with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what he's known for. And he's in the Hall of Fame right now. That's going to forever be solidified with Jim Marshall, no matter what. I mean, with Marcus Williams can go out here, become a Hall of Famer, become an all-time great. People are still going to be showing that play with Stephon Diggs. That's just kind of what comes with the territory, man. That's just like, Mark Sanchez. I mean, he's not a great player or anything like that, but the first thing you think about with Mark Sanchez, you think about that butt fumble, So it just comes with the territory, man. But he's just going to have to weather the storm. It don't define him. But people are never going to forget that, man, because the play was just so unbelievable. So, I like the fact that he bounced back from it. He's probably one of the guys I got the most respect for on the Saints team. I mean, a lot of guys I respect, but Marcus Williams, I got a whole different level of respect for him because of what he went through and what he's bouncing back from. And he's doing a good job at it. Buddy Lejeune says, where's Patrick Robinson at? Let me tell you something, buddy. The question that you're asking right now tells me a lot about Patrick Robinson. Patrick Robinson played in that game. So if you're asking where he was at, that's a good thing. It's a good thing because the person that he was guarding, he shut down. So I take that. I will take that all day. All right. So he was in the game. He did play. I mean, the guy he was guarding didn't get any targets. So sounds good to me, buddy. Hey, sometimes it's good to not hear about players. That means that they possibly doing their job. I mean, you think about the rookie center, Eric McCoy. Eric McCoy, did y'all hear anything about him? Did y'all hear anything about Ryan Ramczyk? Did you hear any holding calls about him because he was holding J.J. Watt? Nope. So it's good to possibly sometimes not hear about players. And when you hear about Patrick Robinson, I can live with that. Let's see. They're getting 3 for 1 though. I assume you're talking about the PJ. Man, it don't matter. It don't matter games. They can get 5 for 1. You know, you can throw in. I don't know. You can throw in a 2 for 3 coupon or something. You know, like it still ain't gonna be enough. You know, like these guys are not good, games. They're not good enough to like get generating like no type of trade leverage. I hate to say it like that, games. They just don't have no leverage, man. They don't have any leverage at all if you're trying to move these guys. It's not happening, man. I'm sorry. It ain't happening. You don't think the secondary deserves credit for some of the sacks we get from covering those wide receivers? Do I think they need credit? No. Nah. Probably on maybe like one of the sacks. I say maybe it was a coverage sack, but no. This is the thing. A lot of that, go back and watch the game. You'll see Deshaun Watson ran himself into a lot of sacks. A couple of times, you have to take that up with Larry McTunzel, lack of experience in that, dealing with that offensive line. But I would say maybe like one of the plays, you know what I'm saying, it was a coverage sack. But Deshaun Watson is one of those guys who runs himself into a sack. And understand this. I know we love ourselves some of those flashy dual-threat quarterbacks. We love them. Like we do. We definitely love those dual-threat quarterbacks. But the thing about them is they run themselves into a lot of sacks. And for all those Taysom Hill lovers out there, let's just say, for example, Drew Brees retired and Taysom Hill end up being a starting quarterback of the Saints. You're probably going to see him get sacked a lot more than Drew Brees because he's a dual threat quarterback. He runs outside the pocket, and when guys run out of the pocket, that gives the defense, opportunity to focus in on the quarterback. And sometimes, like when guys are scrambling, they end up getting sacked because they're trying to make a run, and the defensive player might trip them, behind the line of scrimmage. So that's counted as a sack. Anything. It can be like a guy was just running, he was breaking free, and he doesn't get back to the line. If the defensive end trip him, that's a sack. So I think that a lot of the sacks that the Saints had, Deshaun Watson kind of brought it on himself by holding the ball too long, not willing to make a quick decision, and a lot of time he was just scrambling around, and that kind of cost him. What's going on, Frederick, man? Thanks for checking out the live video. We should play, I guess you mean C.J. Gardner-Johnson over P.J. I agree with that. I think he would do better in the spot. Well, that's the reason why they got Gardner-Johnson, Trevor. The reason why they got him, I mean, on top of the fact that he was a ball hawk at the University of Florida, but he can play multiple positions. I mean, his main position is the safety, but he can guard slot receivers inside of the slot. So they got him for his his ability, his dual ability to be able to play the safety position and also guard the slot. So I think he does need a shot. I mean, at this point, what do we have to lose? I feel like we've seen everything we're going to see out of P.J. Williams. It don't seem like he got better. It seemed like he got worse. And it don't seem like it's never going to change. So I think you need to go out there and possibly get Gardner-Johnson an opportunity. Maybe, sprinkle him in. Maybe the Saints haven't done that just yet because they still want him to get more familiar with the playbook because he is a rookie. So they looking at PJ and just putting him in there. But at the end of the day, I think that Gardner-Johnson is worth it. I think Saquon Hampton is somebody that you can possibly look at as well. I think he'd be able to, be in the game and guard the slot receivers. But I do think that I agree with you 100% about Gardner-Johnson because I think we just seen everything we're going to see out of P.J. Williams. We got to get a good running back now. Bama, we need to get a good running back now. Man, we already got a good running back. We definitely got a good running back already, man. Have you seen Alvin Kamara in that game? Have you seen this guy breaking off them tackles? Have you seen him catching out of the backfield? Have you seen him, like basically telling and showing the world that I am here? And Mark Ingram, he may have been thunder and I may have been lightning, but I can be thunder and lightning. And I ain't even going to take away anything from Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray, he had that 30-yard touchdown. So the way that I look at it, I think they already got some good running backs, man. I understand that Latavius Murray is not Mark Ingram, and I know sometimes the WHO DAT Nation we have a hard time dealing with change. We do, but we have to understand that football is a business, man. The New Orleans Saints did not pay Mark Ingram the amount of money that he wanted, so Mark Ingram ended up going to Baltimore. And I wish Mark Ingram nothing but success. He had a good game. He was a top 5 rusher this past weekend in week 1. That's not a surprise. Mark Ingram has a lot of left in the tank. I mean, I think he has a lot more left in the tank than people may think, because the way the Saints play, the fact that they throw the ball all over the place, how they, miss and match running backs out of the game. I think that he has a lot more tread on the tires than a lot of people may think, because between, him and then, Pierre Thomas for a couple years, and then him and Tim Hightower for a couple years, and then him and Alvin Kamara over the past couple years. I mean, they have really been saving him. So now he is that guy in Baltimore. I think you're going to see a lot of good things out of Mark Ingram. But Latavius Murray is no slouch. The only issue that you can have with Latavius Murray, if you look at his track record, he's been hurt. But, I mean, he's a big guy. He's 6'3", he's 235 pounds. He's a big target to hit, man. Most of the people, they go after his legs and stuff like that to take him down. He's a big man. But when he is in the game, when he is healthy, and when he's all in, he is a very suitable replacement for Mark Ingram. And then you have Alvin Kamara, who has gained muscle mass, who has built up his strength, who has been working on his balance in the offseason. You have yourself a good 1-2 punch, a good running back core that can get you where you need to be, and not to mention Dwayne Washington on the sidelines that can possibly come in and pitch in case somebody gets injured. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen, man. But I don't think that they need another running back. I don't think they need to go out here and get a good running back, because to me, I don't think they have a good running back. I think they got a great running back in Alvin Kamara. But thank you, Bam. I appreciate that, man. Frederick said, you think Saints going to go after the Dolphins defensive back? I guess you're talking about Minkah Fitzpatrick, Frederick. I said they should go after him because Saints are in win now mode, but I don't think they have to give up the house and the dog and the kids in order to get them. You try to make a phone call. You become very confident at what you're willing to give up, and you just don't budge. And if the Miami Dolphins are talking crazy, they talking out their mind, then you hang up the phone and kindly thank them, before you do it. So let's just understand something, Frederick. Even though the Miami Dolphins are rebuilding, even though they are trying to change their team around, it's obvious that they tanking. They do not want to get rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick, because if you look at let's look at the Arizona Cardinals, for example, right? You got Kyler Murray, the young rookie quarterback coming out of Oklahoma. If you notice, man, you need key guys on both sides of the football. You got that veteran in Larry Fitzgerald, Larry Legend. You got that defensive legend in Patrick Peterson. Two guys that can tell the teams on both sides of the ball, man, we need to rally around this young guy. Man, we need to go out here and put our best foot forward. So that's what you'll possibly have in a Minkah Fitzpatrick, man. You got somebody that's been with the organization for a couple of years, who has slowly elevated himself as one of the leaders of the team. So if they go out here and they tank, and for example, they get a Tua Tagovailoa, or they get a Justin Herbert out of Oregon, they get one of those guys, a young guy that's going to come in. They're going to need the guy that with that veteran leadership that can tell them, hey, man, We need to rally around this guy, a guy with some credibility, a guy that, not going to be giving up big plays, a guy that another player can look at and say, hey, man, I aspire to be just like that guy. So it's going to be hard for the Miami Dolphins to try to break free of this guy. So they're going to have to give up a lot. Whatever team, they're going to give up a lot in order for them to get Minkah Fitzpatrick. But I think if you're asking me, should they try? Yes, absolutely. I mean, he is that talented. T. Stokes says, why do Colin Cowherd hate the Saints like he do? He talk down on us every time I watch him. Man, I say this all the time. Colin Cowherd is a caricature, okay? He's a guy who plays a guy on TV. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just who he is. He's one of those guys that try to shock you. They call them shock jocks. Guys that just say anything just so they can get a rise out of you. I think he had like a herd hierarchy or something like that, and he even have the Saints in the top 10. He said if the Saints play the Texans on a mutual field, then they'll lose. It was because they was in the Superdome, but he failed to realize the fact that even though they was in the Superdome, the Texans had to lead the majority of the game, and the Saints came back. So that ought to tell you everything that you need to know about a team. You would think that he would understand the resilience of the team. You would think that he'll understand the greatness of Drew Brees, organizing and orchestrating those 3 plays in the last few minutes of the game. You would think that he'll understand the leg of a Will Lutz to kick a 58-yard field goal to win the game. You would think you would understand the clutch ability of a Ted Ginn Jr. in clutch situations, man. I mean, you would think that he'll understand that Mike Thomas had 10 catches for 120-plus yards. You would think that he'll actually see that Alvin Kamara was bouncing off guys like he was a human bounce house or something. But that's just who he is. That's just who Colin Cowherd is, man. He's one of those guys that just does things for shock value. He can't go out here and talk bad about the Philadelphia Eagles because the Philadelphia Eagle fan base cut the TV off. He can't go out here and talk bad too much about the Dallas Cowboys because the Dallas Cowboy fan base, who they love and they kiss up to, would cut the TV off. So the Saints, in my opinion, are low-hanging fruit, you know what I'm saying, when you think about it, because they're that team that's good, don't have a strong media market, and by talking about them, really, they feel like they really are not going to lose much. That's just reality. A lot of people don't think very much of the Saints. They don't think, they get upset that the Saints are as good as they are. They don't want the Saints to be this good. They don't want the Saints to be elite. They feel like that is for the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers of the world. But this small market team located in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is considered, I think, maybe, especially in the NBA, I think maybe like the 30, like the ranked last among I guess like view, I don't want to say viewship, but I guess like interest or whatever like that. So they look at that and say, okay, man, this is a small market team, so I can probably go at them and there'll be no harm, no foul. So that's what he does. That's just what he does, man. But I don't even pay Colin Cowherd no mind. I say it all the time. Like, once he leaves the studio, if you ask Colin Cowherd who his top 10 was, he probably couldn't even tell you. If you probably seen Colin Cowherd on the street and probably asked him about something, he probably wouldn't even be able to tell you because, like I said, he's a caricature, man. He has these young analysts who come out here and, and these young analytics guys and his interns get him all this information and they feed it to him and he goes out there and say it. I just think that he's just a guy who plays a sports guy on TV. So I don't really think nothing of Colin Cowherd like that. I just know what he's doing. I mean, when you understand people in broadcasting and stuff like that, you wouldn't even pay it no mind because that's just who he is. Mark Ingram looked good. Yeah, that's true, Bama. I mean, but Mark Ingram is good. I mean, that didn't surprise me at all. I said Mark Ingram this season is going to be a top 5 running back. And I think people was like, man, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I know he have it in him. Mark Ingram, ever since he's been in college, he's always been what I like to call oven running back. You know how when you first start the oven, you got to preheat it, right? That's Mark Ingram right there. You got to preheat him. You got to give him a couple carries, and he's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger every time you feed him the ball. So now that he basically is the starter, and you have a couple guys they sprinkle into the offense and the running game as well, but when they start getting them closer games, man, they ain't gonna take Mark Ingram out. That ain't happening. So that didn't surprise me at all, Bama. Let me see. I meant in a slot, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson is a ball hawk. Dude's a stud. I like him better than P.J. Williams. Yeah, Trevor, I think we was on the same page. I was referring to the slot too, man. I was referring to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson playing in the slot, not on the outside, but definitely in the slot. And like I said, the Saints got him because he can play safety and he can play in the slot. So you're probably going to see him in the slot before the season is over. Byron Brown says, what you think about P.J. Williams? Do you think he's the weak link on the defense? Man, that goes without saying. that goes without saying. We all know that he's the weak link. Cam Newton's washed up. He looked like it. I said it to my good friend. I do a podcast with two other guys, my boy DJ and my guy Mike, where we do the NFC South versus the NFL, and I am the representative of the WHO DAT Nation. I represent the New Orleans Saints. DJ represents the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Mike represents the Carolina Panthers. And we were talking this morning via text, and I told Mike, who's the Carolina Panther fan, once again, I told him it's about time for y'all to, maybe look for another quarterback, just to see, just so y'all won't be left hanging. I don't know if Cam Newton, I don't know if that shoulder really bothering him as much, or that injury that he had in preseason to his leg really bothering him, but he don't look good. He don't look good. Bama said Cam Jordan got to step up. Bama, I don't know if that's a joke or not, man. But if a guy got a sack and a half in a game, I don't think there's nothing much to step up about. When a guy has like 3 or 4 solo tackles, and guys are afraid to run to his side because they know the inevitable is going to happen, I think they're doing a good job, man. So I don't think that Cam Jordan needs to step up. I think that a lot of people need to step up to Cam Jordan's level. That's my opinion. But, Bama, I respect your opinion on that one, man. I have to disagree, though. Gerald Green says, P.J. Williams, Patrick Robinson, Crawley, and God Apple just is not the best we can do in the secondary. Probably with the money the Saints got. But, look, man, Patrick Robinson is one of the top slot corners in the league. Now, I know you probably don't want to believe that, but before he got injured, he was ranked number 1, and that's the reason why the Saints end up bringing him back. Eli Apple, people just felt like he just got the short end of the stick in New York. His teammates didn't like him. They wanted him to leave, mostly because of his relationship with his mom and how his mom was in the media and how his mom was like always basically, prying into his life and telling him to do certain things. So his teammates didn't really like him. So the Saints end up just thinking like maybe he can play better, if he had a change of scenery. Like, I mean, honestly, Eli Apple has never been a shutdown corner. He's just a big corner on the outside that can bully guys and that can line up with the bigger guys, that you line up against. He can go up against some of those top receivers and kind of bully them and probably get the best of some of those matchups, but he has never been a shutdown corner. Eli Apple has always been what he is right now, and that's a guy that going to give up some big plays, and he's going to be a guy that probably going to knock the ball away every now and then. So that's just him. Let me see. New man on the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know what you mean by that. TJ, I believe everything you said is true so far this year, but believe me, you the Saints are going to get their act together soon. They are coming together, seeing it for what it is. So I assume what you're saying is, Anthony, you think that, they're going to get their act together. I mean, the Saints always get their act together. I mean, that's never been a problem. The problem is them starting slow and them playing catch up. And you can't do that. You gotta play. You gotta start the season on a high note. I mean, you look at the New Orleans Saints. Just think about this: if they would have lost that game against the Houston Texans, they had the opportunity to jump in the lead of the NFC South first week because everybody lost. So if the Saints would have lost, then basically you would have had the race would have just begun in week 2. But now the Saints are the only NFC South team that actually won, so they lead in the division. So as long as they continue to win, they can three-peat. TJ, I'm tired of all these haters putting our team down. I feel like we can hang with any team, in the NFL. I agree. But I wouldn't even get worked up about no haters because that's what they do. They jealous of the success of the Saints. Like I said, the Saints are not a part of the natural order, and I love it. I like the fact that the Saints aren't a part of the natural order. I like the fact that the Saints can go out there on primetime television and embarrass some of these top teams of the league. I love the fact that the New Orleans Saints beat the Pittsburgh Steelers last season. I love that. I love that because it shows them that the Saints are here. It shows them that the Saints have a great quarterback. I guarantee you, I was thinking about this a couple of days ago after the Monday Night Football game. You can put any other quarterbacks in NFC South in that same game going into the half, and I guarantee you the Saints would have lost that football game. That's the reason why Drew Brees is so successful. That's the reason why he's so great. There's only a few quarterbacks that could have done what Drew Brees would have done in that game to bring his team back. A lot of quarterbacks, would have threw the ball, threw that interception in the red zone and probably let it go to their psyche. Not Drew Brees. He just came out there and played better. So they can hate all they want to, man, but the Saints are here. And as long as number 9 is at the helm, and as long as Sean Payton is calling the plays, the Saints are going to be one of the best teams in the National Football League. And now they got a young defense as well. It's getting better each and every week. The league in trouble. Let's see. What happened to Atlanta? They suck. That's what happened to them. But I called it, man. I don't know if y'all seen that, but I said it on the podcast, the NFC South versus NFL podcast. I told all the people when we were predicting those games, I said they were going to lose by 3 touchdowns. And that's what they lost by, 3 touchdowns. And I don't count that last touchdown that they had during garbage time. I don't count that because anybody could have scored. They lost by 3 touchdowns because people just started getting disinterested. Crowd was leaving. So that's what's wrong with the Atlanta Falcons. They just not good. They stink. That's just what it is. They suck. Their fan base suck. I don't like their fan base. Their fan base is one of the most fickle fan bases in the National Football League. They only come out of the hiding spots when the Atlanta Falcons are winning, so they feel like they're entitled to talk. But I don't see Atlanta Falcon fans when they team down. I don't see optimism in the eyes and in the post of an Atlanta Falcon fan. I don't see it. I don't see them like, man, we got it next week. We still gonna rise up. I don't see that. I don't know if y'all don't, but anytime the Atlanta Falcon fans lose a game, I don't never hear from them. I don't see no level of optimism. When I see Saints fans, talking after the Saints lost, they saying I'm still gonna say who they. That's still my team. We'll get them next week. I don't see that with the Atlanta Falcon fans. But anytime they kind of rising up, winning, rising up, no pun intended. Anytime they go into the playoffs, then they want to come out the trees and out the woodwork and want to talk about other teams, man. But where you was at when your team was down? That's the true definition of a true fan. When your team is down, anybody can love anybody when they winning. Like you think about the New England Patriots. Like New England Patriots been winning for years. People like, I'm a Patriot fan. Like where you was at when them boys went winning every year. Where you was at when Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback. Where you was at when Doug Flutie was the quarterback, huh? Like where you was at then. You weren't nowhere to be found. So, like I said, anybody can cheer for a team when they win. And I feel like that's the Atlanta Falcon fan. I just feel like the Atlanta Falcon fans only want to celebrate them when they winning because they want to feel like winners. But you will never be winners, Atlanta. But you will forever be a bunch of losers. That's what's wrong with them, though, Patty. They suck. What do you think about Taysom Hill? I think that Taysom Hill is the best football player in the National Football League. Now, I didn't say at what position. I just think that overall, like what he does, playing multiple positions, being able to play quarterback, not afraid to get his hands dirty, not afraid to try to block a kick, not afraid to run a guy over, not afraid to throw a touchdown, not afraid to catch a touchdown. The best football player in the National Football League. Okay, now if we want to talk about position and stuff, then that's another story. But for all the things he does, he's a football player. So he's the best football player in the National Football League. What's up, man? I said on another video that the safeties are not in the right position most of the time. The cornerbacks been forcing the receivers to where the safety is supposed to be. That's what happened on that last play with Hopkins when Deshaun Watson threw Hopkins the football. And Marshawn Lattimore thought he had safety help over the top. I know a lot of people like, man, Marshawn, what you doing? That wasn't Marshawn Lattimore's fault. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore thought that he had safety help over the top, but people only seen that it was, quote unquote, one-on-one, but it wasn't. I mean, Von Bell was in the wrong spot, and that's the reason why. And it's too many miscommunications by the New Orleans Saints secondary. And I think that's something that they need to clean up. But it shouldn't be no excuses anymore to why these guys can't get the job done. But I'm going to go ahead and head on out of here. But if you want to, tune in tonight. The State of the Saints podcast will be live on YouTube. If you have not already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints Podcast. youtube.com, search The State of the Saints Podcast. The State of the Saints Podcast will be live. You can ask all your questions there. We're going to get you ready for the Saints game against the Los Angeles Rams. I know a lot of people in the WHO DAT Nation are going to be looking forward to that game. So please subscribe to the channel. I will be going live 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 Central, okay? So I appreciate the love and the support of each and every one of you. Till next time, all I have to say is, who dat?